The time in Central Africa is 0940. Lovely good morning to you and welcome to Monday's edition of Chat Back right here on Radio Christian Voice. My name is Angel Kasavo, and apologies for starting the program late. This was due to technical issues that we needed to sort out in the background. Nonetheless, thank you so much and great to know that you are tuned in. A reminder that this conversation is live on Facebook. You go to your Facebook and search for RCV News. RCV News is a platform where we post everything current affairs. So come to and let's get interactive. And the number is 0956 200 490. 0956 200 490. This morning I'm privileged to be joined in studio by the Patriotic Front Deputy Secretary General for Administration, Council Celestine Mukandila. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Angel, and thank you very much for having me here.
Council, it's always a privilege to have you in studio. It's been an eventful year. We are in November, slowly coming towards the end of the year. How would you describe 2025? I know we're not yet there, but already I'm sure you've got a feeling of how you're going to describe this year.
Well, it's been an extremely interesting one, an extremely interesting year, full of successes and of course a lot of challenges. But you know, as they say, trial was a man. We've had a lot of trials and tribulations in this year, but we've had to ensure that we foster ahead and ensure that we're reminded that patriotism must remain core, and we're reminded that the battle is for the country, and to ensure that every other person in the country is given an opportunity to voice out, an opportunity to be able to provide checks and balances, an opportunity to engage with the leaders. And I think it's been a year of opportunities, and more so that it's been a year of realization. We've had to open up our eyes, and we've had to realize a lot of things that's been happening in this country, starting from the fact that we've had a flawed constitution-making process, which we successfully challenged, and the court granted us the relief that we sought, up to now, where we are hopeful that eventually government will be able to listen to voices of reason with regards to this constitution-making process. And well, I think the Zambian people have seen that it's been a very wonderful, great year of revelation, to the extent that we've had the revelation of seeing the fact that this government, for example, has failed the Zambian people with regards to a lot of areas. Load shedding has been the order of the day, and we've just seen failure of government, and the Zambian people have just realized that it's high time we registered to vote. And that is why you saw scores of society requesting for the extension of the voter registration because of what we saw. And the Zambian people are actually eager for change.
Yeah.
So it's been a very wonderful, interesting year.
Most definitely. And when we talk of interesting years, it's almost not possible to take away the bracket of the Patriotic Front, because I think for us, the outsiders, we think this year has been a roller coaster for the Patriotic Front. And just more recent, the new appointment as PF Deputy Secretary General for Administration, and many other appointments that we've seen in the Patriotic Front, albeit that these appointments have come towards, you know, the General Elective Conference, and it's from there that speculation has emerged, and there's been a lot of commentaries on this particular scope, and I think let's start from there. So just recent, the Patriotic Front acting President, Honorable Given Luvinda, made changes to the Central Committee, members of the Central Committee, and we saw that there was a group in the Patriotic Front that said these appointments are illegal because it has to go through a whole process. But just last night we saw some sort of, I would call it reconciliation or some sort of understanding. Perhaps, are you able to brief us on what was discussed at that particular meeting? And also, if the changes that the acting president made to the Patriotic Front are binding?
Well, it's extremely important to understand that every organization runs on the premise of rules, guidelines, and especially that we are running a club like the Patriotic Front. We've got a constitution, which constitution must be adhered to. The custodian of the constitution of the Patriotic Front is the president of the party, as well as the secretary general. Now, who handles the administrative part as the CEO. And it must be hastened to mention that the constitution of the Patriotic Front is extremely clear with regards to the leadership and authority that one has at every given point. The president of the Patriotic Front, Honorable Given Mukandila, emerged as president as a result of the death that occurred, where President Lungu left us, may he so rest in peace, and as a result whereof, the constitution of the Patriotic Front has actually indicated that the vice president assumes the exercise of all authority of the president. Now, in that respect, when you look at the same constitution, it will provide for different functions and authority of the president of the Patriotic Front. Amongst them includes making such appointments, and amongst them also includes disappointing individuals. And also, it must be hastened to mention that the same constitution also has provided for discretionary authority to be exercised by the president in the best interest of the party, the development and security of the party. And that discretion is unfettered. Unfortunately, that discretion is one where the president does not need to explain his action. However, it must be done in the best interest of the party. And that is not actually defined per se. So we must understand that decisions made by the president are binding to the party and the party leadership and the members. The president, using the powers vested in him by Article 61J of the Constitution of PF, effected changes, upon which I was privileged to find myself as an appointed secretary to the Deputy Secretary General Administration, with my good comrade, Comrade Miles Sampa, as the second deputy, or as the other Deputy Secretary General Political. So I will tell you in no uncertain terms, the decision of the president stands. It was done legally and within the confines of the Constitution of the Patriotic Front, and he has authority to do so. So I would have loved if you had gone through the statement that Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba wrote. I think it provides clarity of purpose with regards to exactly what has transpired.
Yes, so and what we got from the other members of the Patriotic Front, that said that these processes needed to go through the National Executive Committee. But with what you have explained, are you saying that these processes don't have to go through this National Executive Committee for ratification and just to bind the appointments?
Allow me to read for you and for the benefit of the Zambian people the provisions of the Constitution of the Patriotic Front, that which provided for the action that was undertaken by the president. Now, when you look at Chapter 4 of the Patriotic Front Constitution, and specifically Article 61, which deals with the powers and functions of the president of the party, extremely important to note. It says the president of the party shall, going to J, take a decision or action which in his opinion is in the best interest of the development or security of the party. That is the law that, or the provision that the president used. So it does not in any way indicate that decisions that he makes using this provision will have to go through Central Committee. Now, even if, and I want you to note me very correctly, even if the president of the party decided to use the provision of Article 61I, which says the president of the party shall have power to take disciplinary action against a member of the party on the grounds of members' misbehavior, and shall report his action to the Central Committee for ratification. Even if the president was to use this provision, it does not say the president must consult Central Committee first. It says the president must take disciplinary action and thereafter report to Central Committee. So, in essence, you look at what provision the president effected or invoked. So we must, it's extremely important when you're dealing with the administration of clubs such as political parties. It's extremely important to understand that there are provisions that guide the conduct of particular offices. And the duties of different office bearers are outlined in the constitution of the party.
Yeah, this may be the case, Council, but what has raised a few eyebrows is these changes have come just before, as a political party, you're about to have a general conference to elect a party president. And what makes this very interesting is that your acting president is also a presidential aspirant for the party. So then, if I was to turn or flip the coin on the other side, imagine you're on the other side, you're also a presidential aspirant in the Patriotic Front. Then you see acting president, who is your challenger, make such changes. Don't you think that causes for now speculation, especially as you are heading to the general elective conference? That's why the conversations have been. The president, yes, may have these powers, but why didn't he, after all, make these powers, make these changes earlier? Why before the general elective conference? That's what the questions are.
And it's extremely important to understand the provision that the president used. And I want to repeat, just for clarity's sake, the provision that was used is that the president shall take a decision or an action which, in his opinion, is in the best interest of the development and security of the party. Best interest of the development and security of the party. And I will tell you that these decisions that have been made by the president are not in any way sought to advantage anyone. They are sought to ensure that there is clarity of purpose. And in his opinion, he thought that they are in the best interest of the party.
Others may disagree.
And
with
of course, you must realize that this discretionary authority is not defined in the Constitution. So it is in the discretion. You cannot stop President Hakainde from, for example, from appointing anyone. You cannot stop President Hakainde today from changing the Electoral Commission of Zambia chairperson, Mukandila Zalomis. You cannot, even a day before nominations or elections, he can do it. Does he reserve the power to do it? And if the answer is yes, why do you want to curtail him from doing that?
Yeah, best interest.
And now there is an issue to do with best interest of the party.
Best interest of the party.
And it also goes on to say, in his opinion. So it doesn't talk about the opinion of Mukandila, no. He talks about in his opinion. And it's extremely important to understand. And for me, being one who is an advocate for constitutional integrity, in whichever form, I will tell you that we must be able to start respecting authority, especially authority that is bordered on provisions of particular law. It's extremely important.
Yeah. So actually, before you talked about the opinion, I was going to ask you if it's the best interest of the political party, then why have we seen another group have these press briefings and call those decisions as illegal when it is the best interest of
unfortunately,
the party?
unfortunately, I may not be able to answer that, but I will re-echo what the president, I think, mentioned yesterday, that you see different roles, different persons have got their own different roles in the running of political organizations such as the Patriotic Front. And it's also important to realize that when you have a specific role, what you do is to stick to your role. And apart from that, it must be understood that not all of us would take disappointment with a light heart.
Yeah.
Others will take it with a very heavy heart. Others would even invoke rebellion just for the sake of invoking rebellion. And of course, we have come to believe that in every situation, there's always a point where we try and understand why a certain action was taken, and thereafter, you get to a point of, even if you've been disappointed, you get to a point of healing. And of course, healing takes a bit of time, but it must be realized that it still comes. You see, you get to a point of healing, and you get to a point of realizing that what is the role of this person?
Yeah.
Does this person have, or is he wielded with authority to take the action he has taken? And what then should be done?
Others are keen followers of you, and I've heard commentary and also some comments that, look, in as far as we're concerned, we know Mr. Mukandila to be a person who fights for the constitution, who fights for things that are right. We are surprised that he's now been dragged into the mud for this presidential aspirant fight. And we're going to be surprised if he accepts this position, because he knows what is there. Mr. Mukandila is learned counsel. He knows what is happening. So we will be surprised if he gladly accepts this role as Deputy SG for Administration in the PF. What is your comment to such sentiments?
I would be very sorry to disappoint such sentiments. But what I can assure you is that in no uncertain terms, any day, anytime, anything that is illegal and unconstitutional in any form, I would be the first one to indicate, to say this is illegal and it has been done in bad taste. Can we correct it? If I was to receive this appointment in an illegal manner, I would be the first one to go to the acting president and say, Mr. President, the law you have used is not the correct law. Kindly rescind your decision or apply the correct law to appoint me. But now the question is, was the correct law used in appointing Celestine Mukandila? Yes, it was. Did the president have authority to do that? Yes, he did. Was there any illegality there? I don't think so. So, and we must be able to do the right thing. Do I, if anything, the other question should be, do I wield the qualification to even possess this office that I've been given in the best interest of the president? And he thought I have the qualification. All you can see and all you can say in this instance, sir, is I thank you for the appointment and I receive it wholeheartedly. And because it's not
in your individual capacity, were you surprised that this appointment of your appointment came just weeks before the general elective conference? Were you surprised?
Well, I was amazed that the president has identified me as having had the potential to steer the administration of the party in the right direction as we head towards the general conference. Now, remember, it must be noted, we shall be going for a general conference.
And you've got no suspicions of anything fishy there?
I will tell you, my brother, I am one who wields high levels of integrity. I don't think I can compromise on issues to do with constitutional integrity. I'm not one who will compromise. I'm sorry. Anyone, anywhere will know to say when I stand for the right thing, especially when it comes to enhancing good governance and constitutional integrity, I will not compromise. If there is any, and I mean if there is any ulterior motive whatsoever, I will deliver my duty in the best interest of the party and in line with the party constitution. It's unfortunate I will not compromise on principle, I can't compromise. I'm not one to compromise on principle, unfortunately. And I tell my colleagues to say, colleagues, do not mistaken my principles for pride. No, I believe, what I believe is if there's something that is written, provided for, and it has to be done, let it be done. Can we go to the direction where administration of political parties should be based on the ideals of good governance? It's as simple as that. Can we do that?
Yeah. I actually asked this question because some people are saying we are very unsure of these appointments, because saying that even Mr. Mukandila has been appointed, the way we know him, he's a defender of the right thing. So we'll be very surprised.
And I'll not stop being a defender of the right thing.
But since you have put it out there. So with regards to the meeting that you held last night, are you able to confirm as Deputy SG for Administration that you are all on the same page, or perhaps there's still conversations that have to be had within members of the Patriotic Front so that you're together?
Well, it's extremely important to note that the meeting that was held last night was in camera, and I may not be the right person to divulge or discuss the details of the meeting. However, it's also important to note that one of the presidential candidates who appeared to have spoken for the rest of presidential candidates indicated in no uncertain terms that they intend to ensure that they foster unity of purpose, and that is exactly what the Patriotic Front wants to see. The unity of the Patriotic Front as we head towards the general conference. So it's also amazing that these political groupings, these colleagues, are sitting in one room, discussing and dialoguing, and that is what it is required, because all their supporters by now must know that we are having an internal process in the Patriotic Front. No one is at war against each other. No, it's just a process towards us electing a leader for the Patriotic Front and subsequent Central Committee members. So it must be understood that there is unity that has been shown amongst the leadership, especially those that are aspiring, and from there it gives so much hope to everyone, including those that did not even support the Patriotic Front. It shows how democratic the process has been to begin with, and it also shows their commitment to the unity of purpose towards this process.
And also, as Deputy SG, have you been informed? They've said the information that came through from the presidential candidate that spoke on behalf of the team said we've moved to this conference. Are you in a position to let us know when it's going to happen, or hasn't been decided?
Like indicated?
Yes.
They indicated that they'll propose to Central Committee that we move the conference to a date to be announced. So Central Committee will be able to sit. When Central Committee sits, and remember Central Committee is the governing and decision-making body of the Patriotic Front. When Central Committee sits, they will be able to advise the Zambian people. And further to that, we'll be able to communicate to the Zambians as to the resolutions.
This year?
We are hopeful.
Okay.
We are hopeful.
Yeah.
But of course, they have their reasons as to why they had to propose that we move the date for the convention or the conference. But of course, it must also be noted that currently we are in court, and there is an injunction, and the return date is the 3rd of December. So we are hopeful that it shall be soonest. But the Zambian people must know that we are committed as a Patriotic Front to undertake this democratic process in ensuring that we give them a legitimate leadership using a democratic process.
So you're confident 3rd December things will go your way?
We are very hopeful that the legal process will be undertaken in a professional manner. We are very hopeful that the courts will be able to deliver the Patriotic Front.
So in an event, and forgive me because of my basic knowledge for law, in an event this legal process perhaps maybe drags on further. They say, okay, fine, we'll look at this matter maybe next year in January, we'll look at this matter in March. Does that mean you will still not have that general conference, not
Like-
until this thing is sorted out.
Like indicated, the candidates indicated a resolve to inform Central Committee, so that the Central Committee will be able to advise as to when the next date will be given. So it's entirely up to the Central Committee.
So
of the
so
party.
so it's regardless.
Not really.
Yeah.
Like I indicated,
Mm.
we shall be guided by the Central Committee.
Okay.
Central Committee, yes.
Okay.
But what must be known is that the Patriotic Front is resolved to ensure that we deliver a leadership to the Zambian people using a legitimate process.
Yeah. So as things stand, I've actually lost my line of thought. But as things stand, the Central Committee, with or without that court, that legal process being concluded, you're still game that you're going to have the General Elective Conference.
I think it's a non-fact.
Yeah.
We shall be having a general elective conference. It's a non-fact.
Yeah.
And it's constitutional also, according to the party constitution. So we must have the general conference, whether we like it or not. And because whether we like it or not, by the way, it's not up to me, because even the Zambian constitution also provides that there is need for internal
Of course.
conferences to be held
Mm.
for the selection of leadership.
Yeah.
So whether we like it or not, we shall have it. Now, when we will have it is a preserve of what the Central Committee will advise, as the Central Committee is called. So we just need to exercise a bit of some patience.
Yeah.
I know Zambians are losing patience, but it's extremely important that the legitimate process is undertaken. And that is what gives all of us hope, a legitimate process.
As party deputy SG, your new role, people are expectant of you. Are you able to confirm to the Zambians that you may use your position of influence to perhaps have a conversation with the other side that you are in court with, to perhaps maybe try and resolve these differences outside court? That's my finger Member of Parliament, Honorable Robert Chavinga. Are you in a position as Deputy SG for Administration, perhaps maybe using your influence to have a conversation, to have a sit down with him, that perhaps maybe let us try and resolve this outside court? Is that something that you will explore as new SG?
It's extremely important to understand that where there's a will, there's a way. In the administrative process of running the party and ensuring that the party runs smoothly, if there be a possibility of engaging colleagues to ensure that we provide a united patriotic front, it must be done. But I know that there is no point in life where individuals cannot meet and discuss for dialogue. It's extremely important to note. So if that be the case, to ensure that we have a patriotic front that is united, and remember, we want to always push for unity of purpose in the process. I think we may be able to explore all of
that's you extending an olive branch to Honorable Chavinga that you're game for talks outside court.
Definitely. It must be understood that the Patriotic Front is doing work for the Zambian people. What we are doing is not personal work. What we are doing is we are only here as a conduit for the governance of this country for the Zambian people. And I think at that point, it must be understood equally by everyone in the process that there is need for time to come when we'll sit on one table and agree. Of course, it's not always that you'll agree, you disagree or agree. At some point, you agree to disagree. But you agree and say, colleagues, we're doing this for Zambian people in the best interest of this party and the prosperity of this party. Can we also remember that we are here doing God's work for the Zambian people? So if my brother Robert Chavinga is of the opinion that it's important for us to sit on the table, and we know, as a matter of fact, that it's important that we resolve any issues that are there in the party, it's extremely important to do that, Because the Zambian people are waiting for direction, and we shall give them the direction. So, in order to ensure that the best administration of the party is undertaken, I think all doors are open.
Yeah. Last question on this before we get to the constitution. In all this that you have passed, that you have been through as a political party, there has been a term by your critics to say the Patriotic Front, and this is by your critics, the Patriotic Front is a party of confusion. But in your defense, you say, look, majority of the stuff that's been happening in the Patriotic Front, government has had a hand to this particular issue. Now, they're giving case studies of what happened in the Tose Alliance with your colleagues, and then there's these internal issues that you had. And they're saying, look, actually, Council, this thing that you say that the government has a hand in whatever is happening in the Patriotic Front is a lie. Because we are seeing that amongst yourselves, you are not a united party. How do you respond to such criticism?
I think it's important and it's very apparent everywhere. Everyone is able to see that there's been a lot of interference from the state with regards to how we've been managing our internal affairs. And that has stemmed from institutions that have been abused by the state, such as the registrar societies, to seeing the collusion of arms of government in a bid to ensure that they destabilize the operations of the party. We've seen from parliament, the courts, and the executive arm. So, yes, people would want to say that it's a perception which may have been created, but we must also be able to look at it in a more realistic way. We have written to registrar societies, we have engaged or escalated to the minister, and there's not been any response in the affirmative. We have resubmitted our party constitutions to them to remind the registrar that you operate on the premise of ensuring that you deliver according to what is in the constitution of the party or a club. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster. But at last I can confirm that we shall get there. And where there's a will, there's a way. People tend to actually get out extremely strong from these kinds of situations. And the state must actually know that they may think they are making us weak or frustrating us, but we shall rise like a phoenix.
Yeah. One may also say, a case in point, these changes that were made, PF Central Committee, and then the other party also said, no, these are illegal. Does that also stand that the state is having, sort of, is meddling into internal issues when it's very clear that those are issues just within the Patriotic Front?
It's just for that I will tell you that
it's a minor issue.
It's just an issue of individuals not accepting decisions that are made. But otherwise, we need to be very realistic, and let's look at things with plain sight. Let's not look at things with malice. I think when there is an unfettered authority that an individual has, and they apply the authority, let's not try and debate. Today, if President Hakainde, in his infinite wisdom, in fact, President Hakainde in his infinite wisdom decided to appoint a committee using a law. In as much as we don't accept that it's a correct law that he used to appoint the technical committee, he's got the authority to appoint it. But the principle behind it, you get it? But he's got the right to appoint it. And it's his duty or right or power enshrined in the Constitution.
Okay. In case you're just tuning in, you are listening to Monday's edition of Chat Back right here on Radio Christian Voice. And this morning we are looking at national matters. I'm privileged to be joined by Patriotic Front PF Deputy Secretary General for Administration, Mr. Celestine Mukandila. He's with us to look at this particular these items that we are discussing on this morning. And you can come through on Facebook comment section, let us know where you are watching from, and also your contributions and questions. The number is 0956 200 490. That's the number that you can use for your contributions and questions. All right, now let's get to the Constitution. I think we know what the genesis is, but let's get to what is happening recent. We have a forum called Oasis Forum that just yesterday issued a statement that, look, for them, they're not for the amendment bill number 7 of 2025. There are still calls for it to be withdrawn. This was after the president appointed the technical committee that said we may submit our findings before, should be month end of this particular month, November. So you are probably thinking maybe this week or next week on their findings and submissions. But the Oasis Forum has been adamant that this process is illegitimate, and they want this particular bill to be completely withdrawn. Now, the president, in his response yesterday, said, look, as opposed to you wanting to protest, I'm extending that olive branch for dialogue. Come through at State House, let's have a conversation on these matters. What do you make of everything that is transpiring? On one hand, we have a forum that wants to demonstrate, that wants to protest, albeit they haven't been given that police permit. But the president says, come through, let's have a dialogue. Do you think this is an opportunity maybe for dialogue to happen, and perhaps maybe both sides should be happy after this?
I think we must be very certain and straightforward with what we do. The question would be dialogue for what? Maybe if the president can answer that question, then we can move to the next stage to say, okay, fine, let's sit down on the table. Because the only thing that we demand of this president is for him to do the right thing. And the right thing is for him to ensure that he abides by the instruction of the Constitutional Court. In the case of Muniru Zulu and Celestine Mukandila versus the Attorney General. The court was very instructive in delivering its judgment. In the instruction of the court guided that you must ensure that there is an independent committee or body of experts. An independent body of experts that will be able to ensure that we give to the Zambian people a bill that is people-driven. And the process must be people-driven. That was amongst the instructions of the court. The court went further to indicate that the bill, which is called Bill number 7, went against the spirit of 10 provisions of the Constitution. And hence that bill is unconstitutional. Now, you see, it does not require rocket science for one to know that when a bill or anything is unconstitutional, what do? Thrash it into the bin. No two ways about it, no compromise. Now, the question that has been is, why has there been adamancy on the part of the executive or the president in withdrawing Bill 7? And that is all that Oasis Forum is asking for. And by the way, we support the decision of the Oasis Forum. We support their decision and their human rights to want to protest peacefully from Freedom Park to State House. Peaceful demonstration. We support it any day, anytime. And the reason is because we are on record advising this government that the process they have undertaken lacks the legitimacy of constitution making. And that is where we are. We are requesting them. And you know, by the way, if today President Hainde would decide that he has withdrawn Bill 7, then Oasis Forum would be glad, I'm sure, to sit on the table and say, let's dialogue. How then do we come up with a proper consultative process using an independent body of experts?
Yeah, others have seen this call for dialogue from the president as a win, because others are translating that this is also an opportunity for the forum to get close to the president and make their reasons known as to why this bill must be withdrawn. So are you positive on that scope that perhaps at the end of the day what you are advocating for can still happen with this dialogue that the president has called for?
I hope the call for dialogue has been done so with genuineness, and that is what we all hope for as Zambians. May I will tell you, in no uncertain terms, I am one of the people that is advocating for a proper constitution to be given to the Zambian people. That is not a document for an individual or a political grouping. That is a document for the Zambian people, and it requires massive consultation. The Zambian people must be consulted. Whether you like it or not, the courts have guided. Can we start respecting authority in this respect?
And just now, when you talk about the Zambian people must be consulted, when you look at the work that the
and consultation must be done in a way according to the guidance of the court.
So you're not satisfied with the work that the technical committee did? Move around the country, get submissions from people. That for you hasn't been enough?
One, I will tell you something, and I'll give as an example. By the way, you know, when you are getting a mining license, that is a large scale mining license, perhaps, or a small scale maybe. There is a requirement for an environmental impact assessment. Now, that environmental impact assessment, that is just for a mining license, by the way. That environmental impact assessment requires that every person in a chiefdom is consulted. Even the most useless individual is consulted. And they conduct that, including the process of consulting the chief, the headmen, the sections, the different clans in the area. Everyone. Now, that is for an environmental impact assessment for a license, mining license. Now, what more for a constitution of the Republic of Zambia? One that affects your life and my life, your human rights and my human rights. One that affects the entire nation. Why should you go to a provincial center? You sit there. You consult 100 or 1,000 people in Lusaka and think you've consulted the entire Lusaka?
So for
that is a joke.
So for you, the most feasible way is to consult everyone.
There is a call for constituent assemblies. Here's the thing. You know, dealing with the constitution is not like you're dealing with the constitution of the UPND political party. No. Or for a club. No. You are dealing with a constitution that affects the entire country. You must be able to follow the guidance of the court. What was the guidance of the court? Successive constitution-making processes have been done in such a way that we've had constituent assemblies, district assemblies, provincial assemblies. What is wrong with doing that? What is wrong with consulting everyone by way of having these assemblies? Remember, what the Zambian Constitutional Court guided is that we want to guide you on the process of coming up with the bill. And what we challenged, by the way, in court was not the bill. We don't care about the bill. What we care about is how the bill came about. Because when you're dealing with the constitution, you must be able to give legitimacy to the process. Legitimacy to the process. Then you give a people-driven constitution. The court guided. Successive committees have been formed for the sake of having independence. Remember, the court said an independent body of experts. For the sake of having independent, successive committees have been created by way of enforcing the provisions of the Inquiries Act. Now, you know what that does? When you enforce the provisions of the Inquiries Act, you give this committee independence. The committee will have judicature authority to the extent that, Angel, today when you are called by the committee to come and submit evidence or to come and submit submissions, you cannot say I've refused, because it carries with it the force of the judiciary. You might be cited for contempt. But this committee is one that is actually driven by the executive arm of government. Unfortunately, what has transpired, colleagues, is very unfortunate. The president, in the use of Article 92, 2J, to try and compose this committee, that provision of the Constitution provides for executive authority or for executive functions.
Yeah.
The people that were appointed in that committee were performing an executive function, and the independence of that committee is clad because they are performing special duties for the executive. Let's not run away from realities, colleagues.
Yeah.
And that is why, for me, I've been on record indicating to say, I would have appreciated if Judge Mshabati had informed the president, in fact, to say, Mr. President, the law you have used is actually not the correct law. I accept this, but can you use the correct law to appoint me? Give me the authority to go out there and give you a proper document.
So for you, it's not about the content, but it's the process that you are not happy with.
It is the process.
That's why you still want it to be withdrawn.
It is the process. When we get to the content, I will tell you there are provisions that may be okay. Perhaps provisions to do with proportional representation as being the best electoral system for the country. That is a brilliant provision. We propose that. But with regards to certain provisions, such as dealing with ministers in office, come on, the courts have already pronounced themselves. This constitution provides that when there's dissolution, ministers are dropped. They leave office. It's as simple as that. And the courts have pronounced themselves on that. When you're dealing with provisions to do with the age group for voting, it's certain.
Yeah,
when you're dealing with provisions to deal with the time frame for hearing a presidential petition, it's certain. When you're dealing with delimitation, it is self-explanatory. You don't need to amend the constitution in that respect. Besides, for me, my opinion has always been that we have not fully tested this constitution, and therefore we don't even need to amend it.
As a concerned Zambian, seeing that perhaps the technical committee made it very blank, they made it very categorical that they will make these submissions perhaps maybe the end of November. If all this dialogue, perhaps maybe processes in your view fail and it continues to go ahead, are you going at that particular moment going again to petition this in the courts of law? What's going to be the next step for you as a concerned Zambian?
I think then at that point we'll need to now get to request the members of parliament and remind them of their duty and role to ensure that they protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. They have a duty. They have a duty, and it's a duty enshrined in the Constitution. By virtue of their office, they must be able to equally do the right thing.
So that's your last option.
And my last option would be, because we've been to court, and currently I'll actually tell you that I'm still in court, because I commenced contempt proceedings against the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Minister of Justice, requesting them to say, colleagues, failure to withdraw the bill is contemptuous, or it's potentially contemptuous. Please. We are very hopeful the courts will be able to rule. But the last option, if these guys decide to throw this document before the floor of the House in the National Assembly, our last option will be to appeal to the conscience of the members of parliament, to remind them to say, colleagues, please remember that you have to serve the Zambian people with all diligence and integrity, that you will uphold the oath of office that you have to protect and defend the Constitution. Why? Because the Constitutional Court, which is a creature of the Constitution equally, has guided as a way of checks and balances that you cannot proceed with Bill 7. It is unconstitutional.
All right. Before we get to the phone lines, lastly, the president yesterday, during the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia Jubilee celebration in Material constituency, made a statement that he will address the nation on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, on the recent political violence that has happened in the country. What are you expecting the president to address on, even as he has that press conference tomorrow, with the political violence that has recently rocked some parts of the country? The first case is, of course, the Chingola incident, then the PF Secretariat, and the most recent one is your acting president that was attacked by cadres in Kabwe. What are you expecting from the president tomorrow?
I'm expecting affirmative action to be taken by the president. Affirmative action in the sense that I expect the president to begin with ensuring that he expels the Bwengwa member of parliament for having made a statement that proposed violence. And after that statement was done, we have seen speech of violence being occurred or perpetrated by the UPND. I'm expecting affirmative action by the president and indicating to the nation that he has withdrawn Bill 7. I'm expecting affirmative action by the president to ensure that he brings to book by way of firing those that are pushing for violence to be occasioned. I'm expecting affirmative actions from the president to inform the Zambian people as to the status of why the police is not arresting those that are abrogating the law, despite his stance against cadreism. I'm expecting the president to call his cadres to order. I'm expecting the president to provide leadership. Leadership in such a way that we must be able to also be informed on the issue of load shedding. I'm expecting the president to give direction to the nation. Or perhaps I'm expecting this president to accept that he has failed to run this country the best way that he had promised the Zambian people. Failure to manage load shedding is failure to run the country. If it were up to me, in principle, I'll tell you that I'm expecting the president to resign on moral grounds. That is my expectation. Why do I expect the president to resign on moral ground? I'm on record indicating that any violation to the Constitution requires that you are not fit to hold office. And the Constitutional Court has pronounced itself that 10 provisions of the Constitution were abrogated and they were violated. If we have an individual who respects the rule of law in State House today, he must be able to tell the Zambian people to say, colleagues, having read the judgment in the Celestine Mukandila case against AG, and having read the pronouncement of the court that I, as President of the Republic of Zambia, violated 10 provisions of the Constitution, I have resigned on moral grounds. I'm expecting that.
All right, let's get to the phone lines very quickly. The number is 0956 200 490. Let's get about 6 calls. We will call it perhaps. Just a text message here says, good morning. Whatever is happening in the PF is internal and not external. Rash Malumbo from Kitwe. Thank you so much, Rash Malumbo, for your contribution. Let's get to the phone lines. Hello, you're through to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well. Your name and where are you calling us from? George calling us from Luansha. 60 seconds. Go ahead with the contribution. Or Ranchdale. Ranchdale. Go ahead with the contribution. All right.
Good morning, Bwana George. How are you?
I'm fine. A quick one. Only to find out from you the appointment of the chief that's the point of the article used to appoint was members. And the article of the constitution of the PF Constitution is false. And the article, those who are against it, they are using. Can you try to explain to me? Because I can't understand what it is. Given you appointed those people, what article of the PF Constitution they use? And those who are on the other side, what article of the PF Constitution they use? Thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution. Great to know that you are tuned in. That's Brother George calling us from Yenosaka, Rochdale. Thank you so much. Let's get another call on the number 0956 200 490. That's the number that you can use for your contributions. Hello, good morning. You are through to the program.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, your name and where are you calling us from?
It is Michelle calling you Good morning, Master Mukandila.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, this is, thank you so much. State Council, I don't know if I can call you State Council.
I will receive the blessing, sir.
Okay, I'll speak in them. Celestine Mukandila, it's a Tuala Landani, it's another Landani. Tuapapata, Ikatane, one. Two, the Pokumito Terapadi, Yamatore, Constitution of Amendment Bill 7, Constitution of Court, Marita Wino, and Chariwama, Marimuna, or Yumla. Number 7 and the purpose, but Sinum Candida, not to the Puvenazan. The Shenina Makayo, not to differences in their work. These are minor differences. Therefore, what's more for poverty kind today, Katan? We are no more communication charashu. Abena Zambia, Milone, and Abedemi Quaisha. So, but it should be a change more to acquire. So, when you have a message for the Baruin, and I won't tell a candidate, a presidential candidate. Kutila, Abana Zambia, Barangelo Kutila, Ikatanen, Umuntu, Baba president, but I think what Umuntu.
Okay.
Unawai Katana, Sevatara, no, we know. Okay, when Zambia was a Tuarai. No, it should be a change more.
All right, thank you so much, Mishek. Really appreciate for your call. Thank you so much. Hello, good morning. You're through to the program.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
Very well. Your name and where you calling us from?
This is Honorable Kosa. Mukandila, good morning.
Good morning, Honorable.
Yes, my brother, we need to be sincere. As much as we want to do more politics, we also need to be sincere. This is our country. And let us allow people that are in power to do things the way we feel. That is the better way to govern the country. Because we gave them the mandate. I'm talking about the bill, the office forum that you are supporting to the right. Yes, it is there, democratic. But what are they demonstrating about or protesting about, which cannot be tabled, which cannot be discussed on a round table? Huh? How do you really feel you can solve problems by protesting in the streets? I don't think that is the way to go. The president has called for a dialogue. I know they won't go there because they don't have reasons why they are against this bill. This issue of saying it's supposed to be consulted, everybody was supposed to be consulted. Which constitution review that consulted in this nation. Even Manakati did not do that. Even Bunga, even the NTF, which was appointed by Right Along, did not do that. But we saw the constitution being amended. I think as much as we want to form a politics, at some point, let us look at the big picture to our country. Already we have already confirmed that we think more about the proposed project. All what you are talking about is the timing and whatever. If it is about the timing, why don't we start, since we have a lot of time, we start now. If you are not going to conclude before the election, since there is no much time, we'll continue after the election.
All right, Honorable Mkosa, we'll have to let you go. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think your contribution has been all right. Thank you. Hello, good morning. You are through to the program.
How are you?
Very well. Your name and where you calling us from?
This is the government calling you from Kenya.
Yes, go ahead with the contribution.
Mukandila mwauka mfumo.
Kauka kaboto.
Tunalumbanya mbwana.
Maria.
Tunalia soyiro mbwana tunalijai. Tunaembera. Ainu tunalilimina.
Bombo aisha.
Para musnyama kuja kueleka. Mutanti kueleka aje auja. Mutulia mimo ya Mukandila yao.
Yes, sir.
So mutoro alege kuja. Congratulations, the review position ya mimi wanakupakani barabara yao tunaipela.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ndio mimi hivyo nikirapoti. Italicho ya. Kuna kuseleza mzigo yake. Atawazi ndio mimi hivyo nikirapoti na kwa giving the only checks and balance. Bantu babelera. Chambuka Makateka, Choi Pama Katia, Diomani, Oma, Chitempera Yago, Tipukizan, and Mokali Payana with the time. What you want of a Mexican one, Mungo, there is any Mukandila.
Thank you. Almost Sunday.
Hello, good morning. You're through to the program. Very well. Your name and where you're calling us from? Your name again? Boy, your line is very bad. Are you able to call us back? Okay. Okay. Your name again?
Richard.
Richard, go ahead with the contribution.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Mukandila.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. How are you, sir? This morning. My contribution is my opposition and here appears one of PF. This one is a unit, Ultimo Gorizan. And then the issue of protest and show and demonstration because wanakambako Father Bupaesta is a reverend there, Finamos. So, it's not a demonstration, it's a protest, it's a demonstration. So, demonstration, obviously, if you get people and chabuti in the Rex of God, or Chicago and Constitution, you say them, if it's not done, and then land and court, land in Nawina, and then when you are Romania, you are in prison. So, Vietnam is still money. So, a Catholic now on other churches, please, by any court. But what I can use is that the Catholic in a teachers win and wabo. You know, like my shoe, food, my cat, I don't know what my little money might take you, but I was out of young go coach. Who can demonstrate the many of you. And then the Zankara, you may see spirit with you, but I found that you were the government is your Yamika. So, what is you more particular device? And then a clear of Prado and Kanye demonstrate.
All right.
So that if I want to say when you can make a piece, I could see phone and Pamon, and you do the venue, Yakuning of our president in a Panama in public.
0956 2000490. Let's get our last caller. That's about, let's get our last caller. This one says, some in an event that the chosen candidate from the convention and the registrar does not recognize him, what other options will you do so that people can wait? Okay, but I think you try to get what he's saying. This is Richard S. from Lusaka. 0956 2000490. Let's get the last caller on today's program. Okay. Ooh. Hello, good morning. You are through to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, your name and where you calling us from? Yes, Washmalan. Go ahead with the contribution. 60 seconds.
I'm quite Bashmalan. What woman Pompai?
Bantu nataka watu amali akinga kamtuma kala point mwarancha ngi tungumishi nomba ikimwala ngo kwa tibakala bakwati abantu tano wakala bantu amena jambo kwa kwa mtakatifu watu arengi wake wala kwa kala mshiri wake mmoja ni mtu mwala ngo kwa tatibu mkenande na kwa pia ina ile point mwarancha ngi ngo ile kwa constitution kwa ndio la tano la yote ngare kwa fanyika constitution yao pati ya kufikiri yawe bantu baningala tiwala yuko no kufazuke zikatuka ande jini so ni kile constitution kwa watu vile vile so please zikata ni bonke kama kindu chako sa awantesa
all right, thank you so much for your contribution. We would have loved to get as many calls as we can, but we've run out of time. I'll allow you to respond to these, and you only have about 10 minutes to respond to them.
Yeah, thanks very much. Probably I can start with Vashimalan with regards to the issue of the conference and all. But I think Mashmalani, we really appreciate that. Like I indicated, we are very eager to ensure that we give the Zambian people a leadership within the Patriotic Front, but it must be done using a legitimate process. And of course, yesterday we were guided by all the presidential aspirants that their intention is to postpone the conference, or at least it came from the stakeholders. So I think it must be understood that it's not a decision that was made by Given Lubinga alone, and it's not a decision that was made by the Patriotic Front Party as a party. It's a decision that was made by the presidential aspirants themselves, those that intend to take up the mantle of the party. And also, Womunsanje, Bwana Richard, I think thank you very much. You've stressed the fact of unity of purpose, because that is what we need to actually do. The Zambian people are eager for unity in the Patriotic Front, because there is so much that is happening in the country that requires that we must be able to move on the page of unity of purpose. Honorable Mukosa talked about sincerity on the issue of the bill. I think Honorable Mukosa ought to have known that when they read, or when he reads the statement by the Oasis Forum, you'll be able to see the reasons as to why the Oasis Forum intends to protest. So there are a lot of reasons. Amongst them is the fact that this bill must be withdrawn with immediate effect. Can we have this bill withdrawn? What is wrong with it being withdrawn? Because the Constitutional Court pronounced itself that that is an unconstitutional bill. So many other reasons have been advanced. The oppression of the Zambian people by this regime is another thing. Why are we being oppressed? Why can't we express ourselves in legal manners, in legal ways? So all this is what really has caused for the Oasis Forum to request that we have that protest, which shall be, by the way, on the 28th of this month, and it has been requested by many sectors of society. And I think I also want to re-echo that we must stand up in numbers and ensure that we protest with regards to these issues that have been outlined by the Oasis Forum. Mr. Mishek, the issue of us working together, thank you very much. I'm sure you've seen from the meeting that was there last night of presidential candidates that unity of purpose has been stressed, and everyone will work together. With regards to Bill 7, it's an issue that we'll continue to talk about. You know, if this was a listening president, by now we would have expected that he would have withdrawn the bill from the floor of the National Assembly, and would have undertaken a process that is all-inclusive, one that is going to be people-driven, one that goes in line with the provisions of the guidance of the Constitutional Court. Otherwise, thank you very much, and we're only hoping for the best. I think there was another question that was asked by Mr. George from Ranchdale to say what articles of the PF Constitution were used to appoint and what articles are being used of the PF Constitution are being used to refuse the appointment. I think it was stressed Article 61 J of the PF Constitution is the authority that the president of the party used to effect the changes. And also, with regards to the protest by our colleagues, I think, of course, they are just using emotions. There is no law that would back that up, unfortunately.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through to the program today. But just a quick check with. I remember at some point on this platform you had made mention that you will be vying the Matero seat, and somebody told me that they have seen that fire to die down. Have you given up on the seat?
I can't give up on the representation of the people of Matero.
Okay.
We are going into Matero, and it must be known as such.
Okay.
And of course, because of the pressure that I have actually put in the constituency, you saw yesterday the president going to Matero and claiming that he's going to celebrate 60 years of whatever. But the reality is, when you look at where he held that function, that is actually what I call my stronghold. You know, that place, that area alone is 2 minutes walk away from my house in Matero. So that shows you the kind of pressure they are receiving. but at least facts speak for
Were you
themselves.
invited for that event?
No. You see, we need to be very genuine when we're doing certain things. I don't think I'm one that really wants to attend functions that may not mean well, especially for the Zambian people. Yeah. So I was not invited, and I wouldn't have accepted the invitation, unfortunately, because I mean, you are in my neighborhood. I should have been the one to invite them, but I welcomed them. My people were peaceful, as a matter of fact, and they decided to stay home. And as you saw, only those people that they bashed went to that event. My people never went there. For the first time in the history, you can take this President Bukanyama, you'll see how many people may go and attend this event. But they were immaterial. In my area, in my neighborhood, next 2 minutes walk to my place, and no one went there. It shows you. It's a sign. You know, facts speak for themselves.
Mr. Mukandila, we wish you all the best, and thank you so much for coming through to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. And
All right.
thank you very much.
This is